Okay, well, happy Thursday to everybody, and welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared. It is December 23rd, 2023. As we look back on this week of trade, this 4-day shortened week over the past couple of sessions, I think it's worth mentioning it's been a week of trusting the range. And when I say that, there's been ranges across the market defined by different parameters, defined by different levels and trader expectations. But across the board, the market has been trading in this range, and the dominant thesis of range-bound structure, along with the strategy of buying low, selling high, looking for value zones, and ultimately not trying to anticipate much more beyond that, has been a successful way to navigate this entire weekly session. So last session, we took a brief look at the SPX. We talked about how the expected move for the week was marked off at about 45.32. And as the market did retest this lower bound of our range, we saw a strong buying reaction inside of the spiders. Now, as we're climbing back to the top end, worth mentioning that we are approaching the upper bound of the expected move. Once again, more of an option-related range, but one that has remained intact this entire week and has really sort of encapsulated in the entirety of the trading activity so far. Now, as we navigate to our SPY, it's worth showing how that response to the market and to this value zone plays out. Because as a range-bound trader, you're looking for the best risk to reward in regards to buying the range-bound lows, selling the range-bound highs, and not necessarily targeting from high to low the entire opposite end, but necessarily looking for where value sits in the market. If you look at the SPY on this hourly chart, you can see that our VPOC is marked off at about 468. And that's essentially where the market has been drawn to in a very quick fashion. When we get to this area, it's worth noting, what does the market do when we arrive here? Well, we balance out. We sort of stabilize as a product, and any further extension tends to be rejected. So as we have climbed back into this range, it's worth considering that same thesis. Are we going to simply stall now that we've returned to fair and value-based prices? That could be said for the Nasdaq as well. A very clear lower and higher range, that 400 print, along with some of the lower bound tests that were set on the recent pullback. Coming into this 397 area, Nasdaq might have a little bit more left to go, but ultimately we're in a double distribution zone. These larger shells of interest set the stage for the market moving forward. Markets can essentially chop between these upper and lower bounds for a period of time, even after such a strong rally brought us into these zones. And last but not least, our IWM. If you recall, a bit of a trade idea as IWM was more extended into its range-bound support. The idea of sort of buying off of this level of course being defined on our longer time frames, weekly lows, along with this lower bound support that has often responded quite bullishly and quite quickly back to VPOC. So as we see on the IWM, the same thesis has played out, albeit the value zone is defined on higher time frames, because essentially we have a larger range to interpret and to assess where the ultimate target may be for this bounce recovery. So all in all, the market has been doing what a range is supposed to do in a market, each range, of course, being a little different a little bit structurally defined in different ways, but with the same goal in mind. Going from range low to high, from extremes, coming back to value zones, and then given today, we'll see what the volume looks like. Market may simply park itself here, not offer too much in the directional side of things. And of course, if we do see that volume climax into upper bound ranges, we'll start to anticipate what the next week might offer the market. So, all in all, not too much on the agenda for today. It is, of course, Thursday. It's our last trading session for the week. Keeping a close eye on our market cap leaders. Our big name yesterday, of course, was Tesla. Very strong intraday trading session coming from our back test of previous all-time high range. That, of course, being the 885 print. Seeing a strong buying candle on Tuesday's session, and then with some significant news and catalysts to facilitate additional upside, we saw a gap up open, the back test of our breakout range. And then, of course, the rest is history as Tesla went parabolic above $1,000 per share. So congrats to those who traded Tesla yesterday. I, of course, was looking at it inside of the chat room and trading some different sympathy names. But this was sort of our main stock and play. And it did assist with carrying things like the SPY and the Nasdaq forward. Once again, keeping in mind that this company offers approximately $1 trillion market cap as of yesterday. We have reclaimed on yesterday's bounce. And when you think about the speed of the move yesterday and the type of market cap that has been reclaimed, that can, of course, add to some of the strength of the overall markets. When we're looking across some of our sector review, tech, of course, coming back into our range high resistance. Want to keep a close eye for rejection once again. We have a bit of what's known as like a dark cloud cover in this area. Lots of upper bound sort of preliminary supply forcing the market lower. But we're coming off of a clear bounce on the 50. We've seen ranges like this break bullish in the past. And ultimately, if the market does continue to break to new all-time highs, it is expected that tech will lead the way. Healthcare. Just noting that healthcare is doing our first initial pullback. You'll often want to see things like volume reduction on the pullback. This is a very clear sort of ramp up into our initial spike high, volume reduction on the pullback. And although it's not necessarily clean in regards to moving averages, you often want to have a couple areas of interest for these pullbacks. If you note where we've come from on this breakout, the pullback into this prior area of resistance or the initial stall on the move, and now the attempted double top test or the attempted swing high test for trend continuation. So all of these sectors setting up at the same time. Another theme that we brought through this week, whenever the market is strong, it's good to have multiple sectors, especially market cap leaders, aligned bullish or bearish at the same time to really, I would say, concrete the thesis that the market is going to advance or decline on that session, on that weekly period, or just in general. If you're looking for bullish or bearish markets, you have to have participation across the board. One thing with financials, as we start to see a bit of a recovery here, I'll be looking to see what we do at major resistance points. Financials have been strong as a sector, and now that we have a strong recovery, bit of a false breakdown look at a previous trend line, and as we climb into our main resistance line near the top end, financials could certainly become another sector of interest if we start to go more bullish in the posture of the trend. And then last but not least, our discretionaries, seeing that recovery, just showcasing the weekly bounce off of the 20. This is where this market often responds. We, of course, have had deeper corrections in the past, sort of the look of fear whenever you have stronger market corrections occurring back in March. You'll recall that this was a pretty significant downdraft in the market. But we're seeing recovery off the 20 once again. We're seeing that channel be reclaimed. And then short time frame, that channel high can be a target for this curl move. Once again, just noting Tesla being the main driver for this. We'll shift that over here to show that market cap weight, along with stocks like Amazon, but the rest are less significant than the top two. So sector strength, market recovery off the range, low to high, high to low strategies, playing into value. If I were to summarize the past week and you sort of capture each day with a title, I would say that those are our four main titles. We have sector alignment, we have a range, market is drawn to value zones, and playing risk to reward strategies that make sense based on those targets is how we've survived this past week as an overall set of trade ideas. There's been a lot of great intraday opportunity. Keep in mind that today is Thursday, but it is also option expiry day. So normally option series would be expiring on Friday. Instead, today is going to be our main day for expiry. And that's going to be true for any stock that has higher option volume for things like maximum pain type strategies. These are going to be mostly delta neutral strategies near a high open interest strike or the aggregate price that market makers want to capture the most premium reduction. Additionally, if we do get some volume today, if we do go directional, as we have had a strong rally, is that momentum starting to wane? Are we about to consolidate? But if we have a strong rally or even a strong pullback, understand that some of those non-directional strategies may fail as the market may draw down much heavier than the option market can control with regards to higher inventory. So with that said, as we're at the 15-minute mark, I wanted to offer some time to the BBT chat room. We wanted to look at a ticker. If you had a question, we could certainly bring it up. And then for YouTube, probably the last 5 or 10 minutes, I'll look there as well for suggestions. So let's start off with the chat room, maybe the first two who provide a ticker. Okay, so we got BA and Tesla starting off. So BA, we want to kind of start with our dominant trend line. BA has had some moves above this area. It's notable here when the market was trying to recover a bit more strongly. But on failed attempts, you see how significant the downside can be. These are rejections in the higher time frame sense, rejections off the 200, et cetera, et cetera. I think for BA, when you're looking bearish or bullish, you have to play what's in front of you. And when I look at some of the structure here, some of the best bullish scenarios are going to be off of swing lows with a lack of follow through. The swing lows ultimately target the top end of the trend line. And if we look into BA, it's still climbing higher. But if we look at something like volume profile, once again, more the horizontal approach, we've started to move away from a high value zone, which means we're probably going to get a bit extended at some point, either coming into previous resistance or simply seeing a sharp selling rejection at some point in this upper bound range. So Intraday, play the volume, play the directionality of the trend. For example, shorter term time frame, definitely want to look at something like shorter term trending moving averages, something like hourly, where we've already cleared the 200. This is that sort of initial sign of a recovery phase. But the strong impulses have occurred off the lows, and the upside is a bit limited based on what we see in previous rallies. Basically, the top end, low to high, bit of compression, falling wedge. Of course, that can break bullish at some point, but your best scenario is to play low to high. If break bullish, you're already in place. So just understand that the higher time frames are in transit. That means that there might be a bit more upside, but you want to be careful when we get to this upper bound zone. This is where the market tends to reject or just get a bit choppy. So, second, just going in order. Tesla had 2 great days. We had sort of our initial reversal off of the swing high range of the previous all-time highs. This was classic TNA support from resistance, or resistance turn support. Very simple setup and strategy. And of course, the catalyst yesterday with some news around the company facilitated more upside. We're still trending, so nothing is at risk at the moment for the dominant trend. But I would say that one with these moves is often the lack of consolidation. If bulls don't have time to basically pause, they can become a bit tired to the top side, and you can see larger fades lower as you're looking for bulls to step back in, and as bears are starting to sort of reassess a risk position in the stock. Another thing to keep in mind for Tesla today, Tesla trades pretty heavy in the option side. So you might want to look and see where is the volume and where is the open interest for today. Lots of open interest at 1,000. That's pretty normal. It's a psychological number. But if we do go bullish again, we need to climb through pretty much a lot of OI on the call side. And there's a bit of a sticking point at 1050. So maybe thinking in $25 intervals, Tesla likes to sort of move 50 points in a day. The pullback yesterday was 25 points. If you think 1,015 to 990, that is 25-point pullback. So it's pretty much perfect in regards to fib-based trading. You get a 50-point move, you pull back 25 points. Are we going to extend 50 points again from 990 all the way to about 1,040? That would be sort of my fib-based extension on yesterday's setup. And what that looks like is, let's just say we go from here to here. We see this drawdown. That's going to look like this. There's your 50% approximately from low to high. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And now that we've pushed outside, what we're looking to do is basically measure where to expect that upside move. So we can take it like this. You see the drawdown. We can expand higher up into the 161, and that puts us at about 1040 to 1050. So definitely want to play the dominant trend today, but understand that the move itself needs time to build that energy. And we've already sort of hit our first preliminary targets. We're running into the 20 and the 50, bit of a challenge for the market. And as we climb, you need to have a topside target based around some value zone. Okay, so that's 2 from the chat room. Let's do 2 from YouTube. I've got Roku. Let me take a look at Roku's higher time frame. All right. So we have a level here. This is our weekly low on an uptrend. So this is a markup phase. The market pivoted here, drew down, set a low, expanded. There's maybe a bit of a pause here before the actual expansion, but very significant buy-up candle approximately around earnings. Roku is back in this zone. So this is where some of the stronger buys should have been taking place for the market. If we look at the daily, that is true. We've seen strong buys off of this level, very clear gap up, and there was a news event around this time. We've pulled back, tested it. We've actually false breakdown look as we've collapsed from this overreaction. Very notable, but it's still in play. And as we've expanded higher, we're starting to form a bit of a bull flag. So keep your bull flags simple, straightforward. Length of the bull flag, consolidation range. You're looking for a signal, a trigger to get you out of the channel that is formed on the bull flag itself, as opposed to something like a pennant, which compresses and breaks a wedge higher or lower. So the length of this flag, the fact that we're above some of the key moving averages on the hourly, this was a bit too overextended, too explosive. The market actually drew down to get better prices, pushed higher, and now we're trying to hold the 200. So look for this to break bullish, but as of now, you're inside of the bull flag. So you play the bull flag intraday, and then you look for the expansion at some point for something like a swing setup. And you can sort of measure this conservatively from this low. Whenever we do bottom in the flag, you would expand this for your target. That brings you into this upper supply zone. Or you can go aggressive if you're willing to hold a core position. And whenever we bottom, you're looking for that topside target. That one's going to be more challenging because we have to break a swing high. So keep your bull flags simple. They're very much a structured pattern. And the idea is that you have to get out of the consolidation range for it to be directional once again. And in order to do that, you need volume and expansion, or an ignition type candle to get you outside of it. So Nvidia, and what I'll do is I'll kind of answer Neil's question at the same time regarding analysis of the chip sector. Let's start off simple. Where does Nvidia tend to bottom? Nvidia tends to bottom on the 20 period on the weekly. We've seen deeper corrections back in time, and we sort of have a dominant trend line where those significant bottoms have occurred. Right now, Nvidia's chart is telling me that we have not quite established the weekly low. We are trying to, but we have topped. And every single week, we have either made lower lows on the weekly downside, and we have not made a new weekly high. We had a chance here, but we failed. So yes, there's some bullish activity up here. There's lots of range to play with, but understand that the dominant trend has not been tested yet. We're not back where stronger buyers tend to be. And until this forms, you can't really draw this type of trend line, because you don't know if this candle has set your low yet. You can assume, but you can't say for certain. So the weekly is extended. We have to claim that information. The weekly is coming back to an area of less extension. But on the daily, we're coming off the 50. So if this market is to expand and change its trend line, go a bit more, I would say, aggressive in the trend, or that's when people kind of think more parabolic nature, then we have to hold this area. So far, so good. Market tends to be sort of stalling here, getting a bit of a bounce. And now all we need to do is break something like this retracement area. So, as with everything, the best buy points tend to be pullbacks for trending markets. The pullbacks allow for low to high transitions. Low, in this case, we're pretty close to the high. And if you're thinking intraday, 300 is a value zone. So this is where the market may be drawn to in regards to maybe where the market wants to settle for the end of the week. And that would just be that bullish drift inside of maybe the Nasdaq, maybe a little bit of lackluster participation, but also not heavy selling. At which point the market can very slowly but surely get to those upper targets. But at the end of the day, Nvidia has struggled on lower highs. So every single high we've made on a bounce has been a lower high in the daily. And that's where you have to respect the fact that, yes, it was bullish, but we are still in consolidation mode. What we're trying to do is figure out where is the new trend line. Because as this forms, you can say, this is the trend line, and then it fails. This is the trend line, and then it fails. This is the trend line. It's a very unsustainable one. It really failed. So at that point, we have to just kind of monitor as it comes. And we use things like moving averages to maybe get a sense of risk parameters. Off of the 50, if we lose this low, we can maybe anticipate a bit of a lower price target like 250 being tested. So last but not least, analysis of the chip sector. I think it's playing off of that secular trend of supply and demand imbalances inside of technology companies, any inventory that needs these chips. Just remember that there's multiple sides of the semiconductor sector. There's producers of chips, there's manufacturers of chips. For example, Taiwan Semiconductor, very strong bullish day yesterday, getting away from all of its moving averages and having a volume event near this area. Might be worth watching for things like swing trades. And even in the semiconductor space themselves, there's going to be different chip producers. They all have their own inventory and their own sort of strengths and weaknesses. So do an analysis of that sector, understand what each company is responsible for, and then start to put together the fundamental side of which companies still have value or still somewhat undervalued based on maybe 5 to 10 year outlook versus what's occurring now, where the charts are simply getting into those more elevated positions for future growth. So, all right, with that said, that's my time. Thank you all so much for joining me this week. Everybody have a wonderful holiday season. Please take the time to spend time with family, to relax, to get away from the markets for a bit, and ultimately to come back refreshed for next week. We'll talk more then. And as always, trade safe. Stay tuned for pre-market prep, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Hello, everybody. How's it going out there?
Hey, good morning, Thor.
Hey, good morning, Norm. How's it going, man?
I'm doing
How was your
well, thanks.
yesterday?
It was good. It was good. It was hell, I can't even remember what I traded yesterday.
One of those
But it
days.
was a it was no, it was a good day. I had a P&L wise and stuff. It was a good day. I just can't even remember what the hell I traded. I guess been busy with the kid, man.
Yeah, I
Kid
hear
home
that.
for 2 weeks. It's the first time we've ever had that because it's the first time he's gone to actual school and had breaks. So I'm not used to having him around the house, except for short periods of time. Now we get a couple weeks or whatever. Um,
Y-
so anyway,
Yeah, no, I feel you there. You now have this whole new schedule that you've never really had to like factor in before. I've
yeah,
certainly been there with when the kids were getting in that age. I remember that was a band. We decided to go out and for my daughter with her autism, she really likes car rides. So we decided to roll out and go do a Christmas light looking, and we went to this one place that's in the area. It's supposed to be huge for Christmas lights. Well, we kind of expected there to be a lot of cars there, like in line. We did not
yeah.
expect like 20 to 30,000 cars
Oh
in
wow,
line. I mean, we were backed up for miles in like every direction to see this place. It was the craziest thing.
yeah,
But
that's
it was
insane.
beautiful. It was worth it, but it was crazy. So, so anyway, let's go down here and we do have some stuff on the gappers list. I know it's NCLH, NVAX. We've got some stuff popping out there. JD on the gappers down. We've got going on, which is pretty interesting. And on our SPY today, we are finding ourselves put in a really nice push yesterday, but the volume did decline as we push. So I'll be interested to see what that spells for today, if we get a continued push or if we're just going to be choppy and give some of this up a little bit, just kind of hold in here somewhere. Could happen. So we'll see what's going on with that. Other with the market, what do you got going on, Norm? I noticed that we got some stuff going on the pulse, and you were saying there was some stuff that was going on.
Well, there was a ton of data that dropped, so much that I couldn't even fit it all in this deal because it's limited to space. But just as an idea, of course, we had initial jobless claims and continuing claims. Um, that we get every week, and then we had personal income and spending numbers, two different flavors of that: core inflation, monthly and year over year, disposable income, disposable spending, PCE inflation, durable goods, capital core capital goods, new homes, and that was all at 8:30.
Wow.
They were all pretty much in line with what was expected. Nothing too surprising or shocking there, so it didn't do too much to the market. New home sales 10 a.m. Along with the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. So that's kind of what we got.
Man, and I think on top of that, I think Jared also said that because it's because the market's closed tomorrow, today ends up being an expiration day as well.
Yeah, it's just weeklies though. It's not
So,
the
oh,
quad,
okay,
which
so
it
that's
was
not too
last week.
bad.
So
So then we got lots of stuff going on. It's
yeah.
it might not be a totally boring pre-Christmas Thursday. Um, so speaking of that, let's go ahead and see what we got going on the gappers list here. We've got ENSC here. Biosciences, little pharma deal, $6. No shares for short on this one. So immediately, I'm not a fan, just because I like to always have options to short if I want. Running a tight spread though, lower float, which is nice, and it does have some volume this morning. So if you're into the lower float category, this might be something you're interested in looking at. Oops, I typed that wrong. ENSC, dyslexia, coming at you. Oh wow, you really wouldn't want the other one. The one thing that pops out to me on the daily chart here, pretty solid move yesterday, but it's already made a majority of that move today just in the pre-market. So it'll be interesting to see if there's enough ATR in this thing to get something going. Um, ALLK has been moving a bit here in the pre-market. Had a big gap down yesterday and then threw a lot of volume, but in an incredibly tight range. Just warning on this one, if you are into this, which you're I would say you're probably not, but if you are, one thing I really don't like about this stock is this. remember, we talk about this a lot lately, which is how small the candles are. You really don't get a lot of movement out of the stock when it trades intraday. We had this big gap down, and even after a big gap down like that with all of this volume, we still only moved that far, right? Just really, really tight stock. So today, are we really expecting to put in the one big candle that's ever happened on this thing? Maybe. I mean, keep an eye on it, but probably not, right? So that one I'll probably leave off just because I don't think it has a lot of potential to trade well intraday. OCDX. Clinical diagnosis here. We do have shares for short, but it looks like it's been halted at one point because its trading has resumed.
It's a buyout.
It's a buyout, so I don't like it. And you see it's already gapped a bunch, sold upside down. Pre-market action, not fantastic. Decent float otherwise, but it's a buyout. So I don't know. I have never had success playing buyouts. What do you think, Norm? You ever do those?
I don't even look at them, man.
Yeah,
You've spent more time at it than I've spent on buyouts all year.
Amazing. I'm happy to waste a little bit of your time this morning. Let's see.
Well, there's not a whole lot on the list, so
I got.
you got to find something to talk about, right?
I guess
people
so.
bring, and if you're newer, and it's worth talking about this, guys. If you're newer, that is a cash and stock buyout, I believe. No, Cliff, ALOK was not a reverse split. That was a disaster. That was a
That wasn't a
fire.
reverse split. That was a disaster.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one. We'll talk about that one in just a second. So what was I saying? Oh, buyouts. The one we were just talking about, OCDX, was a cash and stock buyouts, which might move a little bit more, but generally, when a buyout takes place, it's at a premium to whatever the stock. It's announced at a premium to whatever the stock would closed at previously. Not always, usually. The stock will pop to that level or just under, like if it's a buyout at $50 a share, it might pop to 48 or 49 bucks, and it'll just be pegged there for months until that buyout goes through. So there's no movement. There's nothing to play. There's nothing to trade. As far as ALK goes, they had poor clinical trial results on one of their main drug that they have in the pipeline. I don't think they actually have any on the market. That was announced yesterday. It dropped from like $90 to $10. So, yeah.
That is interesting. I mean, you're buying stock in a company that doesn't have a product yet, but it will be a product, maybe. And this is what happens when the maybe's a no. So, dang.
I could be wrong. I didn't dig into that a ton, but from my 5 minutes of research, I didn't see that they had any actual products currently on the market. But
I mean, they may, but well, I mean, obviously, if they are, they're not the ones that people were planning on making the company money. That is quite the gap. So yeah, and ALLK, we saw that yesterday, and this was a reason why we didn't put ALLK on the list, by the way, and might have saved some people some money. I mean, look at all that volume, but it did not do a single thing.
Yeah,
if you were a part of that, you had a rough day on it. All right, so hey, somebody I recognize, NKLA. It's been holding this low value range for such a long time, and NKLA can trade well if it decides to go somewhere. People in the chat are saying there is a little bit of a catalyst on this one. So it may be popping up with actually some news. So that'll put us on there.
I think they're potentially having an order that was announced. This 100 zero emission trucks. Is there something else?
Yeah, they delivered their first truck.
More deliveries to come after they push their truck downhill.
They pushed it uphill. You just couldn't see the people behind it. Or was it the rope or whatever? All right. Well, I mean, hey, that's cool. There's a Yeah, so Abid makes a good point. Last time NKLA had an order, they went to like 80. So so let's see what having an actual
I
truck
think the
delivered does.
optimism, my concern about that in history repeating itself is I think the optimism is kind of wiped out of MKLA,
Yeah.
but we'll
We'll
see.
see. On a
Maybe it
day with
does.
not a lot else, maybe she
Maybe it
provides us an
surprises me and gives me
opportunity.
something great.
So hoping for surprises. We have Invax, Novavax Inc. It's been kind of chopped in this value area under $200 for a couple days, and its volume has been dropping significantly. It does find itself, it's on the gap down list, but really it's just mid-range on the prior candle. So it would be really hard to put together a directional bias on this one at the moment. And with the light volume, this would be a tricky trade to really get set up. But it might be worth going on to the secondary for something to look at. Maybe if a little more volume comes in.
They do have a legit catalyst. They came
Mm,
out and said their two vax 2-dose regimen showed efficacy against Omicron. So
fair enough. Okay. Well,
it's
that's
not
good
on
enough.
no news, but we'll see. It's a tough one to trade. It can chop a lot and it can be spready as well. So
Yeah. So we'll definitely do a tighter review of it then with that catalyst. I mean, gotta look at something. All right, JD has its moments, but most of the time is a surprisingly difficult stock to trade. I used to trade this stock when it was, I don't know, it was a long time ago. I don't even think it was in the past year. I think it was like 2 years ago. I had a couple of good weeks on this one, but it is gapping down today. This is JD's a Chinese stock, right?
yep.
So it's got those
Yeah, they've
pressures.
got a negative catalyst. So Tencent is one of their biggest shareholders, and they said they are going to be. I think what I saw was selling like 16 billion
Mm,
in shares. So
unwinding their position a
to
little
pay a
bit.
special dividend to shareholders, I believe.
Interesting. All right. So I mean, we can see this thing. JD has sold off as low as $61. In recent past, and because I mean, I consider 6 months ago to be pretty recent. So, so there's no reason with this catalyst this thing can't come back down to these levels. So certainly JD will be interesting to look at. The only thing I don't like about it is the way we've gapped already has us kind of sitting near this value area that sets up from the 20th. So I'm gonna have to I'll probably have to let this one either sell off or squeeze a little bit until I can get a good RVR on it. But it'll be fun. Might be fun to watch. All right, so we got those in there. We're doing great on time. I want to go ahead and they were on the gap up list earlier, but then they dropped off the gap up list. But I'm going to add them on myself because I've been trading them for the past 2 days very well, which is CCL and NCLH. Both of these stocks with travel has been making a really nice push the past couple of days and have provided just some absolutely clean and beautiful trading opportunities. So I'll probably keep these guys on my list. Although we have a little bit of lack of volume in the morning, so does everything else. So, but these have been just some great opportunities down here. Notice the heavier and higher volume on NCLH that occurred in the beginning December, end of November. That kind of signaled we would be at a bottom here. It took almost a month for that to resolve and actually start making some progress, but the signal was there. So I like those. How about you guys? How about you out there? Y'all have any specific tickers you'd like looking at? We'll do a couple and then we'll pop over. We'll get our announcements rocked out and then we'll close this week out setting some levels.
Should probably look
Um,
at SOPA.
you guys are liking SOPA? SOPA.
It's active. And somebody asked about it, so I'll cover that as well. Somebody said it's been added to the Russell 2000. How many days do you generally see sustained buying? If I had to guess, I'm not going to trade this. If I had to guess, it would likely be over at this point. The day that they made the announcement, they made the announcement after the market on the 19th. The prior day to that, it closed at $3.30. It's now up fivefold from that. Not I don't know that I count on much else. Doesn't mean it's not active. Doesn't mean it's not tradable. I just, some tickers you see, and the Russell's a little bit different of a situation too. Especially if you add it to one of the really big indices like S&P or Nasdaq or something like that, you'll see sustained buying for a long time. We saw that with Tesla. We've seen that with other tickers that they can go 6 weeks in an uptrend because of that news. But it's in play. It's actually, as we speak about it, it's popping right now. But as far as sustained buying, as you phrased it, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So with SOPA, we do not have shares for short in IB, and we are on SSR, which won't affect us that much since we're not going to be shorting anyway. But you have to keep that in mind too, that if you're playing this one, you're only looking for a long. I really don't like trading stocks when I'm only looking for a long. And I want to point this out. If you look on the 15-minute real quick, we are at a very high value area that was established yesterday, which is this range right here. You can see my VPOC is cutting right through it under my R6 from yesterday. Look at all the topping tails that came in off of every attempt that tried to make higher there. Huge selling and resistance area at $18. If I go to my level 2 and I scroll down, $17 has orders. If I get to 18, boom, there they are. Look, we've already got a large stack of orders starting to set up at $18, so they are still there. So if you're trading this thing long, I would immediately expect heavy resistance into 18. Also, if you're a cam trader like I am, you have to realize that you are playing in a pretty wide cam range that is already sitting at the top of the extension of another cam range. So you're looking at probably an inside day on this thing. So it'll probably rally up to 18, fail, and then sell back to 14, and then rally, and then chop, and then end up actually probably closing right around where it's at right now. At least that's how I would expect it to play. So, but I mean, everyone's excited about it this morning. So it just went right up into those orders at 17 without wasting any time. So, and we'll see what happens. All right. So let's see here. We got SOPA out of there. What else we got going on? There's been some fun stuff. Joe's like, oh, PFE. I like PFE. Let's see here. I had PFE on my watch list that I want to check out today too. Let me see. Get it typed in here. And then I'll grab a couple out of the room. Nvidia, Facebook, AAL, or stuff like that. So PFE has me interested right now a little bit because I really like where we're at R4. If PFE decides to break out, and comparatively to many of the other vaccine stocks, PFE is actually a relatively inexpensive stock to purchase. I mean, if you compare it to like Invax at 188 or, mRNA, I forget where mRNA is trading at right now, but it's a couple hundred, I think. PFE is actually at $60, kind of, just visually looks pretty nice. But if you can see here, if as it looks poised to go towards R4, if we can get a breakout of yesterday's high, I mean, we could really look for a nice move on the level 2. We do have sellers building topside, so we do have a bit of a bullish posture. We do have shares for short as well, so I'm definitely liking PFE today. So that'll be on my list. Let's grab some stuff from near all-time high as well, other Mark. That's a good point. All right, so let's pop over to let's see, we said AALF Nvidia Facebook. I'll grab that from YouTube. So I'm not ignoring you fine people over in YouTube land. Hopefully y'all have had a great trading week over in YouTube as well. If you guys get bored in the new year and you haven't done it already, you should do the 1 week trial. Come by and hang out in the chat room. Just come spend a little time with us. I think you guys would really enjoy it. I just deleted something. Facebook. There we go. All right. So here we go. So Ford looking relatively algo this morning. So we'll yeah, let's do these 4, and then we'll pop over to Norm for the to get our news on. So not news, but announcements. So Ford looking very computer this morning. Ford just in general, you can see has kind of found this very, very tight range here. That's basically, let's call it like 20.50 at the top side, 19 at the downside. So about a $1.50 range. And it seems to just be moving up and down inside of this range. And it's completely range bound right now in every way. Even if you look at the level 2 immediately, see, and if you're don't read level 2 very often, see how this level 2 has orders that are showing kind of clearly both to the downside and to the top side. This gives you a real sense of balance, right? So it's not surprising that we're chopping a range and consolidating, since our level 2 kind of shows that. Right, we're just seeing orders both directions. Market maker's not going to go anywhere to do transactions, so that works out. It'd probably be a tough trade today. Facebook, no volume, and has been compressing a bit though on the daily, which is interesting. If volume comes in, SPY makes a big move. Maybe look for the break or loss of this indecision. Could be fun. Nvidia poised to have moving up already, trying to reclaim $300. That'll be very significant area to watch, the psychological 300, to see if we get through. Still missing volume though. Would like to see some more of that. And we already did this one. All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna go ahead and pop over to our guy Norm and let him run some community announcements real quick, and then we'll grab a couple more.
Yeah, fast forward through the webinar stuff because that is incorrect. If you can pull up the BBT site, Thor, and put it on screen, I'll do these real quick, and then you can pull that up. You can get it ready as I go, and then drag it over to the webinars page. Just a reminder that any of the super chat, super sticker revenues being matched dollar for dollar by Andrew, donated to Shriners Children's Hospital this month. And also don't forget about the free replay simulator that we have developed. It's web-based. You don't have to download anything. Just go to stocktradingsimulator.com and you can use it. If you choose, if you can sign up, put your email in the bottom. We don't sell emails. We don't spam you or anything. You get minimal emails from Bearable Traders. But you can be put on Eamon and Simon's homework assignment list. They will send out a couple times a week trade ideas, strategies, and such that will give you the ability to receive those assignments. I apologize. Man, I'm tired. I'm ready for the 3-day weekend.
Right.
And you also might, as Rafzilla says, which I understand, he's the diaper king of Argentina, I believe, right? You might receive hilarious and educational emails from Andrew, which I occasionally get to add jokes in there myself too. So, all right, if you're watching on YouTube and haven't been in the chat, you'd like to give it a try, you can go to bearabletraders.com, scroll down about halfway down that homepage, you'll see the Test Drive Now button. When you fill that out, use the promo code PREMARKET24. That'll get you a discount off the intro membership, which is 7 calendar days, 5 trading days in the room, and does not auto-renew, does not bill you again. And if you'd like to become an elite member and get access to all of the webinars that we're about to discuss in just a moment, you can use the promo code HOLIDAYS40 and get 40% off of the elite annual membership, and also 1 month of DAS Simulator included, which comes with replay on its own too, and that's $165 value. As you pull up the webinars page, Thor, I'm going to address this. I have not discussed it. I have not been on the camera in the last week or so because we've had some technical issues with Thor's setup, and I am in slow motion. So for whatever reason, it is playing my 60 frame per second stream at 30 frames per second in the system, so I am highly delayed. My camera's actually been off for a good 10 minutes, and that's why it looks like I'm a ventriloquist, or I'm talking, my mouth is moving, and it's Thor making the noise. So just a heads up, I should be back to normal on Monday. All right, let's take a peek at that webinar deal.
Yeah, I
You
just threw up the schedule
scroll down.
off of the thing.
Yeah,
So.
pull down, go down to strategy and psychology. So Tuesday at 8 p.m., Artie's going to be talking about hedging strategies. That's next Tuesday at 8 p.m. And then for psychology, we've got gap trading. So we've got a special instead of psychology, we're making up next Wednesday gap trading webinar by Jared. That's the one he was ill and had to postpone. So that'll be next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern as well. That's it. All right.
Cool.
We're
All right.
Yeah.
Pull this back over here. I almost closed the browser that I pulled over for that, which would have completely disconnected my whole stream. If I had done that, that would have been so
That
awesome.
would have been bad.
I'm happy I didn't do that. I'm feeling. I think today's going to be a good day. I can feel it now that I managed to not do that. All right. So let's go ahead and hit some tickers, y'all. So far, we actually do have a couple that I find interesting, but we've got some calls out there in YouTube land I'm going to go ahead and grab and take a look at. And then I'll come back. For anyone in the main room, by the way, I am still doing Thursday mentoring tonight. So I noticed the question in there. That is still on tonight. It's the 23rd, not the 24th, folks. So we still got mentoring available for you guys. So, come in there, see me, hang out. We'll have a good time, get our Christmas cheer on. All right, so let's see. The YouTube land was asking for AMC, and then I believe there was a Tesla request as well. Did I type in? Oh, I just lost data on my DOS. Oh, please tell me my internet didn't just drop. Okay, so my DOS just disconnected. So I was concerned my internet may have disconnected entirely. So am I still good in the room? All right, cool. Thank you. If I'm good there, I assume I'm still good in YouTube land. All right, so we're gonna go over to AMC. My DOS has reconnected, so yikes. All right. Cool. So AMC right now, volume-wise, is not looking fantastic. AMC generically, when it plays, it lets you know ahead of time. It's kind of like a hurricane. You kind of get a little bit of an advanced warning. One thing I can see is we had this really nice, kind of a buy-up candle here that happened off of $24, and that was nice. And it has been kind of double bottoming, but we find ourselves really consolidated and chopping this overall value, as Jared would say, like this value shelf that's been established right here. So when we've kind of fallen off of it, we climbed right back onto it. So the question is, are we going to fall again, or do we support and try and reject it? Either way, playing AMC right now, you'd be playing right at value. It'd be very difficult to plan a really good trade here. Notice if you look at the cam structure on the 1 minute here, we're dead center. We're right at the central pivot range, right? So for me on AMC, I'd actually have to allow AMC to either sell off somewhere down into 27s somewhere, or even rally up towards 30, right? So that I could make a different decision and maybe get a better RVR. But AMC is going to be a tough trade. Tesla, I think, could be a good trade today, and it may be worth leaving on our list for the day. Tesla, which we were very in tune with yesterday. I know Jared got a decent piece of it. We had a couple of members really get a good piece of it, which, as you know, Elon is done selling his position. Or at least the price is low enough that he's done selling his position. So he said it's okay for us to start buying again. So, and since he gave us, did he, wow, he sold more yesterday. I know he did. Anyway, so since the man of the year has stated that he is done selling, that means he means almost done, right? 17. Since the man of the year is done selling his position, we may now buy. So apparently the market agrees. This is kind of a cult stock, as you know. So as you can see, we've gapped above 950 and then did a beautiful $50 run up to 1,000 yesterday. So let's have some fun with it, I guess. Play it. I mean, catalyst is catalyst, right? So that's an interesting one. AMD. So AMD I find to be very interesting today. We need more volume on it to confirm things. But right now, AMD finds itself pushing right up underneath S3 on our daily level here in this high value area. So it's going to be hard to play it at the, again, we're kind of in the central range on AMD. So it's going to be hard just to trade it right off the open. Now, the reason I'm saying that is this. So what happens more often, right, is, and I'll show you an example on the 15 minutes. See yesterday, see how we have this big value area that set itself right here. So what stocks tend to do if you trade near value, which you can see in AMD basically closed right in the central pivot range yesterday, right in this middle area. So what happens is stocks, as they attempt to reject down, come back to value. They attempt to go away and they come back to value, right? Until they don't. So it's better to take trades from down here because you're more likely to get the return back to value than to try and trade here and try and get a move away. Your RVR is going to be much tighter and much easier, and trade speed is going to be much more enjoyable taking this after it bottoms and comes back to value, right? Unless it has a notable catalyst or an outside day, then you'll expect it to break out and run, right? So right now we're already sitting right in this central range again. So the question is, are we really expecting this thing to get out, get through all these higher levels and break today? Or are we just going to kind of get stock bouncing around inside of here? That'll be the interesting thing. A rejection here, we could get a big breakdown if the market rolls today. But not seeing a lot on the level 2 to make me see one way or the other on AMD. Is the return to value as the same as the mean or 21 MA? DG, I would consider it similar to returning to mean, not a moving average. Moving averages are lacking indicators. Nothing returns to a moving average. A moving average just simply lines up with wherever the price action moved to in a particular area. But it's not the other way around, right? But the mean, you could consider value or the average of value as being a mean, right? VPOC trader guy, volume price of control, or sorry, volume point of control. So, you know, and I agree with you looking at that a little bit now, Vic. I mean, AMD's pivots are tighter than the prior day's pivots. So maybe we do get a breakdown. And that's what I was kind of saying. Maybe we, you know, if we move down and lose this, I think there's some downside potential. But I don't see anything right now that would make me think we're breaking out to the top side. But we'll see. Tech's crazy. I mean, the one thing we have is this big buy-up candle. Kind of maybe we get a 3-day play. Maybe it holds and breaks and then goes on a run. It could happen. It just doesn't look like that to me yet. But, you know, if more volume comes in, we get some stuff to happen. You know,
I mean, it really looks just like the Qs.
So let's see what Norm's talking about there, right? So Norm's saying, look, check out the Qs, right? So look at the daily on the Qs.
It's very, very similar.
Right? 2 pushes, and then we're just slightly up here and holding, right? But Qs is even in a much less favorable range even than that. I mean, Qs are coming up into value here, so Qs could reject here. That gives us the downside of this range to run. That would really pull things down to close the day out. Be very interesting. All right, what do you got there? You want Apple? I can do Apple.
Fruit company.
Fruit company. Since the... All right, so Apple I find interesting on the daily. So there's some conflicting information here on Apple. So first of all, Apple, right, has been rallying, which is nice, but it's been rallying on declining volume, which is not nice. You generically don't like to see that. You'd like to see the volume building as you push. Right, so now we are just above R4, which is a breakout level on the daily. So do we test hold PDC and take a breakout today? That if the market goes strong, possible. But again, what I said before, we find ourselves in this central range here. So it's going to be really hard just getting a trade right off the open with confidence for me. I'm probably going to have to let this thing draw down to 175 if it gives me the chance. and try and buy it down here if I'm going to long it. If the level 2 looks bullish, then I may actually look for this thing to, squeeze a bit and then fail and sell off today. It's going to be very interesting to see how the market plays. We're going to have to be really patient today and let the market kind of wake up and kind of see what starts to happen before we get too committed in any one way or the other. MU. Yeah, let's check out MU. MU's had a couple of decent days.
Yeah, since they had their breakout from their earnings, it had a big day after earnings, but the last couple have been a little meh.
Yeah, their earnings was after hours, so it was just bam right there. I think Ed got a piece of that.
Yeah, it traded okay the day
traded
after
okay.
that, but it's been a little stagnant since.
So it is the third day after the gap. Maybe we get some kind of a 3-day play. But I do like we're opening right under R3 right now. So we have topping tails off of these levels in pre-market high. We actually could reject and gap fill still on this thing. So it'll be really fun to watch to see what Qs in the market do, and to see how some of these stocks respond to it. It looks fun for a breakout, but it looks really fun if it decided to go the other direction. But right now our level 2 is actually poised bullish, or at least it's reading a little bullish to me. So I would not be shorting it just yet. Spread's about 12 cents. We do have shares for short, so that's always fun. All right. Yeah, MU was choppy yesterday, huh? V? You want V? Let's see here. Visa. Pre-market action, not spectacular, so I'll stay away from that. It is shortable. High 40-cent spread, which could be worse on a $200 stock, but could be better. Just for analysis,
guys, it's only traded 7,000 shares and hasn't traded a share in the last, I don't know,
hour.
30 minutes.
Yeah. So if you are really interested in seeing it, one thing I can say is that V looks like it's very extended and it finds itself under the average price on the daily here. So it would be hard to want to play this thing long going right into the average price like that. But if it does break out, maybe you get a shot. Scrolling back in time a little bit on this thing intraday, it might not be the best trader in the world.
No.
Might not be the best. Man, 1 minute chart's horrible in this thing. All right, what else we got? All right, so let's see here. We got some watch lists starting to come in from our moderators. Anything jumping out at you, Norm, yet? Is something you just have to trade today?
Negative.
Negatory, good buddy. All right. So I'm kind of with you on that one. Right now, let's see. Anybody getting NKLA? A lot of orders at 990. Yeah, I still don't have anything that's just really just like jumping out at me. I just have to trade this. So it's going to be an interesting day. Peter, no IPOs, no SPACs. He's watching AMD, Tesla, and Apple. I like it. Secondary, JD, NKLA, and then to be determined. I feel like that's my watch list, is to be determined. Tiffany's coming in strong. PFE, Apple, Tesla. I think I'm stealing 2 out of 3 of those. We have the prophet of profit, our own Brian Pesum, coming in with Tesla, JD, LVS, and SOPA.
Yeah. These, I didn't mention it earlier because there were so many data points that I was discussing all the data that was dropping, but there's been some studies that I saw that are being discussed a lot this morning that Omicron is nowhere near as dangerous as previous COVID variants, and that is helping travel sector, LVS included in that. NLCH was up there a minute ago.
Yeah, definitely. That's good news. Let's be hopeful for that. If we had if we have a less, what would you call it? Volatile version of the virus, I guess. Something
there was
that's
also a hedge fund or something that started buying up LVS that was announced last night. So,
all right. So LVS, I find interesting. That's certainly interesting news. On the daily, I mean, we certainly do find ourselves significantly below the average price paid per share on this thing over time, right? I mean, VWAP on this thing all the way at 47.30 almost right now. So that's, I mean, we're significantly under value. Just on a chart basis on what it's been valued at in the past. High value area we're kind of coming off of at 36.50. So the question is, are we ready to go on this thing? We did have a bit of a quite a nice rally on it 2 days ago. Yesterday spent the entire day chopping and accumulating. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Are we going to need a back test of 37.50 before we're ready to go? Or if this thing's just, we are poised above R4. So what I'd actually be looking for would be a pullback to somewhere around 38, hopefully. When I look down towards 38, I'm not seeing any orders down there. So I don't know if that pullback's going to happen. 37 has some, but that would be a lot bigger of a pullback. But that would be a full back test of PDC if they ran back there. So LVS's L2 needs to come together a little bit better. But certainly with some of that news could provide some opportunities today. I like that. Jared's watch list coming in: Tesla, JD, Disney, and then travel sector, which is basically my watch list. I believe my watch list is basically going to be travel sector. All right, so let's see here. All right. Yeah, I'm with you there, Brian, and KLA maybe. Brian W, PLWS. I'll grab one or two more, and then we'll wrap this show. All right. So, guys, if you guys want me to look at anything specific, Pete, did I type that in wrong? Or you don't do it. You're messing with me. All right. So let's see here. Yeah, that's about all I got. PFE, JD still down, Invax. All right, man. Norm, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, brother. Looks like we've got a few good tickers to go in here. I know we're going to have Brian on, Andrew here in a little bit to do some live trading. To you, brother, thanks for hanging out with this week. I hope you have a great Christmas. Blessings to you and your family.
Yeah, likewise, man. Merry Christmas to you, all the mods, everybody else in the room. I am getting a question over on YouTube. It says, when is the next one going to start? I'd love to chat more about it and learn how to prepare for it. Maybe in regards to boot camp, which it starts January 10th. Registration's currently open. It's about half full already, a little bit more maybe. So if you're interested, sign up soon. You can do that at peakcapitaltrading.com.
Nice. Excellent. Great. Well, make sure to get in on that opportunity. You guys will be surprised at how fast that fills up. So if you're looking to get in there and do that, I know
it is not in person, guys. I keep getting getting asked, is it all? It's not in person. It is remote. You don't have to be in Vancouver.
Nice. Just registered. Congrats, guys. I like that. All right. So I'm going to call this thing everyone out.
But Brian L. is correct. Nothing isn't in person anymore. We aren't going to be the exception. Anyway. All right.
Cool,
yep.
man.
Merry Christmas, everybody. I'll
Merry
see you
Christmas,
Monday.
everyone
Trade
out there.
safe. Have a great weekend.
See you next week.